Hey everyone, we're live. Welcome back to the Entrepreneur Hour. The Entrepreneur Hour is a show where I show you new cool tech, new cool business ideas, and new cool entrepreneur investor opportunities. Today, my special guest is Kirsten. Forgot your last Campbell. I need to start studying full names of my guests. Kirsten Campbell. We met through an investor partner of mine. She works with marketing for some of his companies, and I liked a few things that I saw about what her content, which was a little bit revolving around how consumers are irrational. So I wanted to understand more and more about that. So I figured, why not have her on my show, getting a phone call, and explain what she means about the consumer, and then also ask her some marketing questions that I believe any entrepreneur should know. So nice to meet you, Kirsten, virtually, and welcome to the Entrepreneur Hour. So I like to start out by asking the guest, what is your origin story, your superhero? How'd you start out, and how'd you get to where you are now?
I really wish I had a better story for you, but I went to university and studied marketing. And so I did a double major in marketing and HR. I've never worked in HR, although it's actually been pretty helpful. So I got a marketing degree and then went to go work in marketing. But of course, that was right after the 2008 recession. So trying to find a job in marketing when marketing is the cost center. So marketing always got the first layoff.
First, yeah.
That was an experience to itself.
Yeah, pretty much. I know from many years of, this is my third recession. Marketing gets hit first, but it also comes back first.
Well, it only takes them a while to realize, oh, hey, wait, no one's talking to our consumers and our profits are going down. So
money. How do we get money?
Yeah, we tend to forget about that
one. Yeah. So, okay. So you went to school for marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Then what? You started.
Then I started basically just sort of taking whatever contract that was offered because that's all there was. So I ended up getting into tech. So I did tech marketing for 10 years, which was really interesting. And then after that, I ended up just deciding that the usual, insert stereotype here of marketing and tech, and just decided that it wasn't worth it anymore and decided to go off on my own and have never looked back since.
So you became an entrepreneur, huh? So you saw the freedom and benefits of entrepreneurship and went for it, and you never went back.
Yeah, especially after working in the sort of lumbering bear of an organization of big tech companies and even the smaller tech startups, they weren't as nimble and they weren't able to respond to their consumers. And there was always another agenda that wasn't just giving the best product and giving the best services. So it just seemed like there was a disconnect there, and it just seemed like the best time to just go off and be like, you know what, might as well try this.
No, yeah. I mean, I think every person should at least try it. Try the thing you enjoy. See if you can make a living out of it. I think, because if you do, it's a great win-win situation. So, okay. So now you're working with what type of companies? What type of companies do you work with now? Do you still work with tech companies?
I still work with tech companies. Now it's a bit of everything. There's architects, lawyers, tech, finance, dog trainers. I work with other marketers. So it's kind of anything that's sort of interesting and people that want to talk to their consumers and not just throw money at buying ads. Those tend to be the people that I want to work with and that want to work with me.
So that brings me to an interesting question that when I was speaking to my young people at MetaBronx, I always was telling them there's a difference between marketing and advertising. Can you explain the difference? What's marketing versus advertising?
Marketing is the stories and the promises that a brand makes and how it delivers on that promise. Whereas advertising is part of marketing, no doubt, but advertising is the more specific, like, okay, what's the exact message? What's the copy for this ad? Marketing is what makes you sleep on the sidewalk to buy an iPhone. And it's what makes you walk 2 blocks further to go to Starbucks instead of Dunkin's. Yeah. Advertising is the vehicle for that.
Sure. It's like the way I was explaining it is marketing is telling your brand story to connect them to your brand. And then advertising is where you try to make the close, where you start to draw them towards getting some type of sale. That's how I was explaining it. But yeah, so it makes sense. Marketing, I always worked on the advertising side of things. When I started, I was building ads, right? So I saw the end product and how we got it to consumer. As I started creating my own companies, I learned about marketing more and more, and it's super important. And most entrepreneurs don't even think about it, right? Like, yeah, like any advice, if you are an entrepreneur thinking about marketing, where would you start?
Definitely start with researching the hell out of whatever it is that you're talking about. I definitely find that people just don't even do a basic Google search for what they're looking at. And then they're surprised when, a competitor's had a product out for 3 years and they had no idea and things like that.
Yeah, your competition, researching your competition is huge. So what is if you had to say what marketing is in a succinct way, just so people know, okay, this is what marketing is, what would you say that is?
Marketing is selling feelings. It's selling stories and magic. And because people don't buy products and services, they buy products that confirm the stories that they want to believe about themselves.
100%. And had a video I guess last week where I kind of was going into a little bit of that, but yes, I agree. Okay. So, but what is marketing really selling? What do you think?
Well, it's selling magic. It's Apple promises you that you're going to be more creative with their computers, as I'm sitting here on a MacBook right now. Starbucks promises you that you're going to be a coffee aficionado, BMW promises the ultimate driving experience,
Sure.
and that's ultimately what they're selling you.
That makes sense. So what does marketing do then? Like if you say, okay, it's selling you on this thing, but how does it sell you on this thing?
Marketing adds value by changing consumer perceptions. And a great example of that is cars. And so there's 2 ways you can add value to a car. You can put leather seats in it, or you can put cloth seats in and convince your consumers they're cooler.
Sure. Through marketing, right? So that's telling stories that make them connect to your brand in a way that says, no, I rather have this car with the cloth seats than the leather because I believe their story connects more with me.
It supports the stories that you tell yourself. And I mean, I'm guilty as charged, by the way. Like, I always swore that I would never not have leather seats again. Here I am driving cloth seats because they've got right. And here I am talking about it 3 years later. I'm talking about it and I'm still sitting here justifying it to myself as a consumer. So it's a very powerful tactic.
For sure. I think most people are buying based on marketing. They don't even realize it at all. Yeah. I was talking about people wanted to create, especially in MetaBronx, a lot of young people want to create their own clothing lines, right? Mm-hmm. So I was talking about how this shirt is a plain black shirt. You buy it for $10, maybe $20 the most. But as soon as I put a Polo logo or something like that, it goes to $40, $50, and people are willing to pay it, right? They're paying for that story, pretty much, that marketing. What it tells everybody else about what I believe it tells everybody else about me, right? So that's kind of where most businesses are not really thinking about that. They're thinking about the service and how to deliver it, but not how to create a marketing strategy around their company that makes people want to only work with them. Like you said, Apple costs a lot more than a regular PC. Just like you, I'm on an Apple and I only use Apple, right? So they've sold me early, creatives use Apple. If you're not, and then every creative in the industry, well, most, they believe that. So if you are creative and you walk in with a different type of computer, people look at you a little weird sometimes. And that's based off the marketing for many years that Apple has done very well. So, okay. So how do marketers market? Give me examples of marketing.
Well, marketers market by they frame choices, they add context, and they present information. And the way that information is presented to us really, really affects what we choose. And we see this a lot in restaurants, for example. So restaurants typically, back in before times when we were allowed to go to restaurants, if you remember opening up the menu, back in the day. Where were we ever that young? I don't even know. So you'll remember, restaurants put the most expensive dish at the top. They don't actually think that they're going to sell that many of them. They put it there to make everything else cheaper by comparison.
Ah.
So that's how they.
It's even better. It's a win-win. So you're saying they kind of, I've heard that as like an anchor. They set an anchor so everything else looks much better, right?
Yeah, because price anchors are so powerful for consumers because for whatever reason, the first price sticks in our mind. If you remember when Steve Jobs introduced the iPad, there was $999 up on the screen. And so that was established as the price anchor. So then when the price came crashing down, I think it was like $499 or $599, there was an audible gasp in the auditorium because people were, oh my God, it's on sale.
So that's actually interesting. I don't remember that, but it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it makes sense, right? Like, whoa, this is a deal, right? So he just created that in a presentation of less than an hour. He made you feel like there was a deal. But he's also for many years marketed to you in a way that you understand what he does. You understand the story of Apple, right? So, and the story of Apple is we innovate hardware and software, right? So here's a hardware innovation for you, and it's only $1,000. Wait, no, it's not. It's $500, right? So amazing. Yeah, Apple does it probably one of the best companies to market, right? Would you say what would you say are some of your best examples of marketing companies that market well?
Ooh, there's a few of them that really understand their consumers. Apple, definitely. Starbucks used to, now they don't really so much anymore. I think a lot of the like Dove understands their consumers very well. There's folks who we're now suddenly seeing how poorly they understand their consumers. Like folks like Nike, for years they've been selling, Pride and things like that. But then there's other companies that obviously now we're seeing that they're just not really getting it. Example, Pepsi, like we know that they just don't really get it. But then there's been also newer companies that have come out that have really been showcasing what they can do. And it's been through empathy. They seem to understand their target audience better. Makes
sense. So they're connecting with their community better, right? So that's another thing I was talking about. You have to have a story, but then you have to have a community that connects to that story. But if you have a story that's not connecting, that's basically what you're saying. When brands are not connecting to their community the right way, they're creating this dysfunction that is hard to come back from. But Pepsi and companies like that are so large that they'll figure it out. They have enough billions to mess up every now and then. So, okay. So how do you know what to market? From my perspective, there's data and stuff like that. So marketers use data. How do they use data?
Data is used in order to predict how people will react to things. So you basically conduct little psychological experiments and you put out content and see how large groups of people react to it. Then you take the data, and if you know what you're doing, you layer on deep contextual understanding of human behavior, because that will ultimately tell you what the emotion is behind things and why people are doing the things that they're doing.
So behavior is a funny thing, because you hear stories about things like Facebook gaming people based on their behavior, like the election and stuff like that, based on them seeing what they're doing and then pushing them to do something they want. I always think about this, especially when it came to the election. Do people behave very similar when it comes to marketing anywhere in the world, or different places, different races, religions? Do they behave differently based on where they are?
Culture is different everywhere. Yes. Like that's 100%. Like all the companies that try to come to Canada, like Target and stuff, and they ended up failing miserably, is because they assumed that we were consumers just like the Americans. Whereas human nature is eternal. Anywhere in the world you go, the psychological pain of losing is twice that of a gain. That's true for everybody across all cultures.
So if you target certain parts of the human psyche, it's the same everywhere. But then when you target cultural, you want to make sure you're targeting, you can't send the same message to every culture. right? But you can tug on heartstrings with everyone.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Things, like every culture loves lottery, like, oh, get rich quick schemes. Like, that's human nature. I mean, it was just last August in 2019, they discovered a bunch of Roman coins over somewhere in England, I think it was. And interestingly, in those coins, they found what was evidence of the first ever tax evasion, attempts at tax evasion. And that just illustrates how humans, no matter where they are, no matter what they're doing, our wishes and our impulses are the same.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. From ancient history, nobody wants to pay taxes. So we have a question from one of the MetaBronxers. His name is Axel, but his name is clicks here. Isn't advertising like promoting something?
If you want to get really granular, yeah, like advertising would be, okay, I'm going to click an ad, click send on Facebook. That's advertising. But what goes into the advertising is the consumer behavior part, is the understanding the emotion behind the decisions and understanding why people do the things that they do.
Sure. So clicks, if you have more questions, anyone, especially from MetaBronx, anyone watching at all, if you have any questions, put them in the thing, and definitely like this video and share it. Okay, what else? I have questions that I wanted to ask. Why is behavior science and psychology baked into marketing then? Like how can me as a I want to say a small business owner, but I guess yes. As a small business, how should I look at psychology when it comes to marketing? Also as a tech business, because right now we're talking to audiences that are trying to create large scale businesses that are venture capital backed or equity crowdfunded. And then we're talking to a small business owner that just has a shop that is struggling right now with COVID.
Well, understanding the behavioral science and the psychology behind your marketing ultimately serves to improve the customer experience, because it makes your consumers more predictable and it helps you understand the emotion behind those decisions. And again, we see this in restaurants a lot. Many restaurants find that the most popular bottles of wine are the second most expensive and the second cheapest. But understanding the psychology behind that is somebody comes in, they're having a fancy night, but they don't want to go too crazy. So they go to the menu, most expensive bottle, and then go one down. I think we've all done the opposite, where you go look at the cheapest bottle and go one up. So I'm getting good value, but I'm not being a cheapo. So that's the understanding the entire range of the emotion behind the decision and why people do the things that they do.
So targeting emotion. So you want to understand as a business, what's the emotional trigger, I guess, to help people buy your product?
Yeah. What are they feeling before they buy it? What are they feeling right afterwards? What are they trying to feel? Because people are just trying to buy an emotion.
That's super interesting. That's interesting. Okay. So what would you say? Okay. If you had an online brand right now, which is tough to get the emotion of a sale, right? Because it's all on a website. Well, is there any advice for people that are selling things right now through the internet to create that emotional connection, or any advice at all for selling something online through emotion?
Talk to your consumers like they're people. I so rarely see an authentic voice. I rarely see empathy and that anybody actually understands what you're going through. I mean, especially now, you just see all these brands you might as well just get sick at our store, or, oh, you might as well just buy this, like that kind of thing. There's no actual humanity and connection to it.
So connect. So empathy, connection is how, I guess I'm kind of trying to think of tactics though. How would you do that on a store? Like if you land on whatever.com, how do you create that empathy connection then? I guess you would have to get them that before they even land on the website, basically through marketing.
Not necessarily. I mean, it would ultimately come through with your content, whether it's videos or written content, whatever that might be. It's evoking some type of emotion, whether it's we understand what you're going through, or here's a practical solution for you, whatever it might be. Authenticity is what sells. And that's something that is so sorely lacking in marketing these days, is there's that lack of authentic human connection.
Hmm. That makes sense. That makes sense. I guess I'm thinking. I think about social media. When you say that, I think about social media. That's probably the easiest way to start getting that connection, because it's going to take more than one time, right? Like, it's another thing I talk about. It takes, I think, 20 touch points before people even realize what you're trying to sell them, right? So social media allows for that. So would you say, people should be using social media in a way that starts to try to connect through empathy right now? Like I guess I'm trying to think of examples. If there's anybody watching with a type of business, this is a time to ask a pro. I think about my business, right? I work in digital technology. I make websites, I make apps. How would I do that as a business? How would I guess, all right, I'm thinking as I talk. Um, One of the emotions I can think of is people being worried about their product getting done on time and on budget, right? So are you saying like I should play into that and have empathy with people that are, I know your project is due and you may be worried about it succeeding and getting it done on time and on budget, create content around that? Is that what you would do?
Yeah, basically acknowledge the struggle that they're going through. And that's ultimately what proves that you get it, which builds trust, which is what you're trying to do anyways. It's by, hey, I understand you're worried about these things, and this is a huge concern. Here's what we're doing to mitigate it. If I heard that from my digital marketing provider compared to the other person who either said nothing or totally bungled it, I'm going to feel more trust in you. And yeah, I'm totally willing to give you my money.
That makes a lot of sense. If anyone, any questions, definitely bring them out. All right. So when you're thinking about social media, one of the biggest things people worry about is social proof. Does social proof actually work? Like, what do you think about social proof?
Social proof works breathtakingly well. 88% of consumers trust online reviews as if they were personal recommendations. So this is something you cannot ignore. We see it all the time with Amazon. Customers like you bought soap like this.
Yeah, that's true.
And the government uses it. Every tax season, 9 out of 10 Americans pay their tax on time. No, they don't. The government is telling you that.
Lie social proof. so if you don't know what social proof is, I know I skipped over what it means. Social proof just means other people are proving that whatever it is valid. So many ways of doing that is having a person that has a large following, right? If you see a person that has 100,000 followers, that in a way is social proof that something about them a lot of people like, so it helps them in gaining followers. I actually have a question from Carl Kwan. What's the importance of data and analytics when it comes to marketing decisions?
Oh God, it's huge. Data allows you to, in all your little psychological experiments that you perform, it allows you to create this tapestry of information, of insight into how people think and what they want and what their motivations and their needs are. And you can use that to figure out your content, figure out your messaging, and use it as a springboard to get that authenticity that you want, because it's insight into how people think.
I know from talking to many people about data, most people understand the general term, but they don't understand the nitty-gritty of data. Would you be able to break down the important data you should be at least tracking as a business?
Well, Google Analytics in itself is really great for this stuff, even if you're not spending a bunch of money on ads. It gives you insight into location, age, gender breakdown, demographics, things like that. And what I love it for is it gives you the idea of what's in people's heads. They come to your website. What do they do? What are they curious about? What are they thinking? Because then you can, cross-reference it with social posts and things like that and see what topics are gaining traction, what people are talking about, what excites them and what doesn't. And it really does offer you a lot of insight.
I think you just said a term that has become on the borderline of extinct. Your website. I think a lot of businesses right now don't believe in websites as much as they did before. Like, I've literally had conversations with people that have said, why do I need a website? I have social media, right? And I think as a business owner, if you do not have a website, you know, yeah, that's crazy. It's pretty crazy. It's like not having a phone number. It's actually worse than not having a phone number now, I believe. So hope that answers your question, Carl. If you have more, definitely ask them. Okay, I'm gonna get to the key question of why I wanted to interview you. When you talk about customers being irrational, explain that and explain how we can do something about it.
Well, customers are rational. First off, consumers look to other people for signals of what to buy. We make decisions based on social norms to gain acceptance from others. So understanding that, we're never going to be sane. And humans are such emotional decision makers that our judgment and perception get so easily clouded by mixed signals and false signals that we have no idea what we're doing. We are horrible at assessing risk, whether it's short-term, long-term, probability. We're horrible at assessing probability. Humans tend to put way too much emphasis on what's happening now and not enough of what's in the future. And we miscalculate a lot. And then if you think about it, even just seeing the word free floods our brain with dopamine, and then we make irrational decisions.
Yeah. It's kind of like that gut feeling thing. I forget who it was that said we make really most of our decisions based on this like thing, that this gut feeling that we really can't justify. So it kind of goes to what you're saying about us not being really having our probability percent and be like, all right, this is 70% likely to fail. Let me not spend money on it. No, it's like, I think there's something I like about this. Not even being sure what it is, and you go for it. So that's super interesting. So what can a marketer, a business do to like make that benefit you?
That's where data comes in. That's where looking at the data and understanding human nature, and that's consumer behavior, is understanding why people are doing the things that they're doing. It's not a glamorous thing for a lot of people, and that's, I think, why they don't want to do it, is because it's not fun or interesting. I mean, doing ads and hitting send on Facebook is fancier as a job, but understanding the emotions and what goes into those decisions is ultimately what's going to make or break you.
All right, that's good answer. We have a question from one of the MetaBronxers. Kevin asks, how does a product you are marketing influence your ideas?
Is it with consumers' ideas, or
I guess you as a marketer? So like if you're marketing Pepsi versus Starbucks, how does it influence? Does the product actually influence, or is it mostly around you trying to connect with the consumer to bring them in? Does the product actually change the way you think about any of this?
It'll depend. If the product's something that you can see and touch versus not, yeah. The best way to get people to change their attitude about something is to get them to change their behavior. So if you can get them to try your drink, try your app, do whatever it is, you've got a more successful shot of changing their attitude. But then you've also got to figure out what are the steps I need to do to actually get them to change their behavior.
So, okay. Kevin, if you have any more questions, definitely ask. All right. So why is human behavior consumer behavior? Like, so why is it that humans right now specifically, right? We see it. We're stuck home. I feel like people are spending a lot more money in ways, because it's much easier to buy anything right now, right? Mm-hmm. It's also, there's a pro and con to that, because I'm spending a lot less money because I'm going out less, but I am ordering things online much easier, right? So how does the human behavior and consumer behavior connect?
Well, that's the understanding okay, we're all scared and panicked and everyone's at home and we don't want to go out. So it's understanding that part of it, the logical part of it, and then connecting that to what's going on in the real world and figuring out how to kind of market beyond that. Like, human nature is immortal, and that's something that is pretty constant and we can figure it out. But it's understanding the behavior and the culture and stuff that goes into it. Like the way that, I mean, I'm sure every city right now is dealing with what that looks like slightly differently, even though, yeah, like we're all facing the same thing. It's human behavior versus consumer behavior. So at the end of the day, there's like the tactical part of it. And then there's the higher level. What's the motivation? What's it going on in everybody's head right now?
Got it. Okay. So if you had to think about some of the greatest marketing campaigns you've ever studied in school or been a part of or seen just as a professional, what are some very good marketing campaigns you can point to?
The most famous one, and I would argue is the most effective, you can come join me in my time machine. We're going to go back to 1947. And that was when a marketing executive over at De Beers coined the term, "A diamond is forever." And everybody knows that. It's one of the most iconic ads on earth. Everybody knows that slogan. What's interesting was that it was totally cooked up by a marketer in order to link the durability of the stone with everlasting love. It was all calculated. It was total. There was nothing glamorous or romantic going on behind the scenes. And then they managed to place a diamond as a necessary luxury. And this was aided by your favorite, price anchoring, 2 months' wages. So they had a perfect storm of all kinds of marketing messages with psychological angles to it, behavioral economics, like all the things that you would want to have it hook in somebody's mind. And it totally worked. Look at us. All these years later, we're still doing it. It's like a given that that's what you do.
Yep, 100%. And it pretty much transformed an industry, right? Because before that, diamonds weren't as used for marriage, right? Like I remember reading about that. Like it pretty much changed marriage too, right? Like it changed the way people view, that rock was the signal of you cared for your woman.
A symbol of how much you cared about somebody.
Yeah. So that's super interesting. And there's many examples. Like I think about isn't Santa Claus a marketing campaign?
Yeah, it was
Coca-Cola created Santa Claus, right? Mm-hmm. So do you remember the full story? I don't know if I remember the full story. Is that something you remember?
I don't know the full story off the top of my head, but I think it was pretty much the same. Some marketer just cooked it up to boost sales.
So do you see anything like that happening now? Like I know we're talking about old stories when it was much easier, I guess, to get people to believe something. Now you can't even get people to believe facts.
Yeah, that's another thing. So they're more willing to believe the randomest shit, which is actually a bit funnier. Is it's almost easier now to get them to believe something that's totally ludicrous than it is to get them to believe in something that's sane.
That's true, actually. That's very true. That's funny. Mm-hmm. Why do you think that is? Do you think these are like conspiracy theories are thinking about marketing? Like when they create them, are they thinking, how can we get the most people to share this? That's interesting, actually. Do you think any marketing is in play there?
I think there is to a degree, but I'm not sure they're conscious of it. I think a lot of the time
you're tapping into a lot of the things you're saying without being,
but without being explicit. Sure. like say for example, like a real world marketing example I was just reading about was, so Kanye's great bid for the presidential seat. He's actually, his marketing manager is a Republican strategist. So that for them is a brilliant marketing strategy.
Oh my God. Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So that's like on their part, I'm like, well done. Like that's a brilliant marketing move.
Oh man. Well, Kanye has always done pretty well at marketing, right? He understands how to generate attention. Even from his first album, he was doing that. So I guess certain people just do it well as a personal brand. That's a good question. As a personal brand, I'm trying to build a personal brand. How should a personal brand think about marketing? Also, should every business have a personal brand attached to it? Do you think that makes sense?
Well, weirdly, we're starting to see that now. We're starting to see brands become people. Like we stand with Black Lives Matter. Like you're a corporation. Who's we? And stuff like that. You're starting to see that as where they're now being marketed as entities and as people. So we are definitely starting to see that.
So do you think, because that's one thing I always, especially for the startup founders that I work with, I try to get them to understand that it will help them more if their face is at least alongside the logo, right? Like, and I as a personal brand now. I fought it for many years. You know, I felt the same way. Let the company do. But now I see the benefit of having your face out there and the logo, right? So what kind of marketing advice would you give for people who are creating personal brands, influencers? I wouldn't put those together, but I do believe every entrepreneur should have a personal brand. Do you agree with that?
I think now that is true. Like people buy from people, and that's always been the case. And people, when they see a human face, sales go up 30%. People like looking at people. And like, look, for example, like latest Fast Company article, they're talking about, you know, Ryan Reynolds and his empire. That dude is a marketer who happens to be an actor, but he should be a marketing executive somewhere. He gets it. And that's perfect, beautiful example of a personal brand and how you can absolutely turn that into something that you can make a lot of money with.
See, like I didn't even know that, right? I just know him as an actor, but he has so much around him that it doesn't even matter. The fact that I know him as an actor, he has already sold me. Like I went to see his movies. I watched his movie. I just watched something on Netflix with him. So he's selling me just by existing. But of course, the things he puts out help his brand. But they are extensions of his personal brand. Everything is an extension of his personal brand. So a lot of times people ask me, what do I do? And there's so many different things. That's why I wanted to create something like this, because then they get to see them. They get to connect with people like you, understanding more about what I do, and then maybe create some revenue for me or people like you. So, okay, what would you say then is, so I basically, I want to like, because we still got like about 20 minutes. If you were just starting a business today in COVID, how would you think about marketing right now? Like, how would you start? Let's say, do you need a type of business, or can you just think of it? It could be anything.
For a general start, it would be find the smallest group of people that would be most interested in whatever it is that you're selling, whatever problem that you're trying to solve. Don't figure out the lock, figure out the key first. And then, oh, sorry, I said that wrong. The opposite. Examine the lock and then build the key to figure out what's going to unlock it. A lot of people tend to do that the opposite, and they've got this great, amazing product, and then they're trying to sort of like retrofit it. And so that would be like major research, talking to your customers, figuring out what they want, what they don't want, and really digging into that.
So find a problem. The lock is the problem, and then find the people that would be interested in the solution. The least amount of people that you believe will be interested in this solution, right? So you say
interested, yeah, like the people that are going to be so pumped that you came up with a solution. They're going to go tell every single person they met, and that's how you'll gain more traction, especially in a time like this. If you're going to try to cast a wide net, you'll probably take a bit longer, and especially now, you'll probably end up bleeding yourself dry before you end up getting any traction.
So that again comes back to the data thing, right? Because if you know your product works well for women, Hispanic, age 23 to 27, you can just target those people only, right? So that's the way of just, but that takes a guess at first, right? And then how do you find out what the true data is? Do you just let it come to the website, and then you track it through Google? Or do you do some initial guessing? Because I know, like in my industry with tech, you create personas where you create a guess, right? So you say, okay, I believe this app will do well with men age 22 to 30, African-American in New York. So that's where we're going to start. We're going to target that first. How would you say in the start? Should you do the same? Should you guess your initial highest people who may care?
Usually it's sort of like the first time you write something for the professor or the teacher. You're like, I think you're going to like this. But when you hand in the first assignment, then you figure out kind of where you land on the dartboard. And so the first time that you release something, you'll probably be doing a bit of guessing and checking. But when you initially come up with who that target market will be, it should be an educated guess. It isn't just sort of blind closing your eyes. But yeah, you're going to be testing a bunch of stuff. Some stuff's going to fail. Some stuff's going to work great. So it's that initial bit where you learn the most, because you sort of release your hypothesis into the wild and then see what the data returns.
So, but should you be doing that? How tactically should you be doing that? Should it be you telling your story at first, or connecting with their empathetic need, the empathetic need you found? How would you start? Like, I guess day one, I am, make it easy, t-shirt online company. Hey, how would I start? How would you start? Like,
start with their story. Start with connecting with them. Sales is, what have you done for me lately? And it's good empathetic marketing is generous. It is about them, about their needs and what they want. So you're wearing their avatar and you're figuring out what's going to be a huge hit. What are their motivation? What are their needs? It isn't so much about you and your story. It's about them and their story and understanding that.
So how would you create marketing that does that, though? I guess I'm confused on how to do it myself. So, okay, I'm trying to think of examples. Do you have any examples of how a brand can create something based on a story of their consumer? Is there any examples you could think of?
The example I was just talking about last week was Rihanna and Fenty Beauty. So she saw a giant hole in the market for women of color who can't get foundation to match. And so the stories that would go on in their minds behind the scenes were, we're not valuable consumers. Nobody cares about us. Our money is worthless. Nobody will take it. And then it sort of goes off into the, why can't we be served as consumers? So then that's why she's making over $500 million a year in sales after only like 2 years of being in business, is because
nobody would
those stories that those women feel, and that all the years of going into the drugstore and going like, okay, well, this isn't going to happen. Now they feel seen.
So she created content around them not being seen. She created her first content around, because it's Rihanna, so it's a little bit of a, she's like a ringer, right? She has like a billion people and know who she is. So her story actually sells this alone, right? But then there's this brand that has to create a story on its own. So you're saying that brand on its own connected to the story of Black women have never had products that will cater to them for skincare, pretty much, right? So now Rihanna, a Black woman, was going to get into that world. Well, I guess there were others, right? There were others. There were never no others.
For years, one of the most famous supermodels in the world, Naomi Campbell, couldn't get foundation to match her skin. This was like 90s, 2000s. It was only when Rihanna showed up that anybody who was darker than like a latte was able to actually get makeup to fit them and to actually suit their skin. So that's why, like, even if you listen to Rihanna when she talks about it, she talks about how growing up, she always saw Black women wearing makeup because it was her family. It was only when she got out in the world where she's like, whoa, 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 they don't have any. Like, they actually don't have any makeup to suit them and to suit their skin. And that's what, and she actually writes the marketing copy. She writes everything for all of her marketing material.
Oh, wow.
Keeps her connected to her consumers is it's in her voice.
I didn't know that. Wow. So she's really involved in that. I wouldn't have thought that.
And yeah.
That makes sense though. Makes sense. Call Fenty. That's super interesting. So, okay. Found a problem. That's a problem that not everybody's going to find, right? That's like a generational problem. So I guess I'm trying to think more. I don't want to say small business, but I'm thinking.
Well, there's an example of a small business and then they just got gobbled up. So there was a small business that ended up, they created Band-Aids for different skin tones. And this is a niche. They were a small company and this was a niche that they've been working on for years. And given the recent timing with George Floyd thing, now suddenly there's this demand for such a thing. So they ended up, they didn't even get bought out. I think it was Band-Aid, ended up just stealing their idea and taking it and running with it.
I saw that. I saw that. I saw Band-Aid do it. I was like, oh, so they acquired a company to do it. Then I was like, why would they acquire a company?
Zuckerberg mentality of just buy it. Of no, not even just buy it, just steal it.
Take it, steal it. Yeah. Which that's where marketing, I believe, is super beneficial because you can't steal a brand, right? Like, sure, you could try to do the same thing. I can make coffee too, right? But that doesn't mean you're going to want to pay what you're willing to pay for Starbucks. Starbucks has somehow created a brand where you're more likely to pay when you could buy coffee 50 cents in a store, but you can go to Starbucks and pay $5, right? So marketing and branding to me are the only way around not having stuff like that happen. If that company would have been a bigger brand, people would still be buying theirs over Band-Aid, right? But Band-Aid is a huge brand for many, many decades. So they were able to just take the same idea. There was nothing proprietary about it. And now they're going to win because their brand is more powerful. And the same thing just happened actually last week. I saw Instagram included a lot of the things that TikTok has, right? The same way they did before with Snapchat. And they pretty much killed Snapchat. I wonder what it will do for TikTok. But Instagram is a bigger brand. So people are like, yeah, you know what? I like Instagram. I'm going to just do it here instead of going to TikTok like they did with Snapchat. So very interesting stuff. Any final questions? We got about 15 minutes left. What do you think about marketing post-COVID? Do you think marketing is going to change now that I guess we're in a recession, right? This one may be longer than previous ones. We said marketing takes the hit first.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think the marketing industry is going to work for the next year at least? Like, what do you see happening? Do you have any thoughts on how it's going to work?
I think there's going to be a gradual, but not fast enough, shift of getting diversity into the marketing room in the room, because especially now, we just keep seeing brands fumble the ball, and it just, if anything, just screams, we don't have anybody but white people in our marketing department. And then how to connect with audiences if there's nobody here that lives that authentic experience?
So I have a story I always tell. I tell it behind the scenes. I won't say where it was at, but one time I was involved with an agency that was trying to figure out how to work on, I think it was makeup. It was makeup or fragrance for Shakira. And it was 4 white guys. It was 4 white guys, right? And I was Hispanic. I was the only Hispanic in the room. And I remember being like, you sure you don't want at least my opinion?
Of course not.
So, but again, and I'm not a woman, right? And I'm like, so I go and I'm like, look, I think I should just see if there's any way I can help you. But then when they started really talking about it, I was like, you probably should get a Hispanic woman and different types of Hispanic women, because a Hispanic woman from South America is going to be a different person than a Hispanic woman in New York City. And then there's Dominican, Puerto Rican, Colombian, you guys really should be like talking to to some of them, right? And I know that campaign went out without any of that happening, but I think still them listening is going to be a problem, right? Like there's this structure in place. It's about really having this process of listening that incorporate this stuff, because a lot of it is white men, like we've always known. But now, even if you get women involved, how's that structure change of listening to their feedback and incorporating it? That's going to be super interesting. And we see stats. There's all kinds of stats that say founders with at least one woman, companies that are founded with at least one woman, do a lot better, right? And still, very few companies with women founders get investment. So it's still like this. Now we kind of have it as an understanding. There has to be some type of movement, though, and I guess, like you said, it's not happening fast enough. I've been seeing this for years, and now I think Me Too helped it a little bit. But what started happening, though, is investors stopped wanting to take meetings with women because they were scared of that. So that became another thing that I started to see. And it was like, oh man. And then now with COVID, it's becoming a hard time to raise money if you're anybody. But now with this world of, worried about how you're going to interact with women, and then, seeing how it goes when you actually get feedback, this is a tough time. I believe we're heading into a better time, though. I think now, by having this kind of clear global understanding of how things should be. And if you're not operating in that spectrum, you're an outlier. So you're going to be like cast away, but you need to understand them, at least the guidelines of interacting with minority diversity, and then having a process in place to listen and do something about the feedback. I think that's going to be super important. I'm really interested to see how that works, because another thing about marketing that I realized by dealing with companies like that is only about 10% of the marketing budget goes to diversity initiatives. So like if you look at a campaign as 100%, they'll say, all right, 10% is for Black, Hispanic, Asian. It's like, how could that make sense? And that's pretty crazy. Do you see that changing tremendously now with data?
I think there needs to be several data points to prove the hypothesis that we all know is true. I mean, diversity is good for business. We know that. It's the structures in place that don't support it that need to shift, which is the hardest thing to do of all, is shift longstanding structures. But the only way to really do that is to go beyond having the token and actually have minorities and women in all ranks, decision-making, not decision-making. That's the way you're going to get rid of racism in your office. And that's the way you're going to be able to market to your consumers better, is actually having people in there that look like them.
100%. I'm actually working right now on a talk about how diversity is pretty much, is super connected to the future of innovation too, right? Like you said, ideas. Yeah. How are you going to innovate if you're like eliminating 70% of the population, 50% if you just include women, right? So like there's like a financial, even if we just play on the greed strings, there's a financial incentive to being more diverse. And I don't understand how they've gone so long without seeing that. But I think that time is coming though. I hope. But I think we're heading to a good time. I think it's going to be a great time to be an innovator, an entrepreneur, a woman, a minority, because you're going to have more opportunity than any other generation before you. So it's really about going for it. Part of why I'm doing this, and most of the time, it's funny because I have white men on the show. It's mostly women and minorities, right? But I want to start diversifying even my interviewing, because I'm leaning too much towards diversity. But at the same time, I want people to see both sides, right? I want people to see, and because sometimes some of the people I get to interview, most people wouldn't get to meet the CEO of a company who's a white male or an investor, right? A white male investor. So I want to start bringing them to the table and have people like are watching right now ask the questions. So, okay, let me ask you two questions based on what's going on in MetaBronx. We are working on a game. I had students that said we want to make a game, so we created a game. Have you ever marketed for a game, and can you give them any advice on how they can do marketing for their game?
I've done marketing for mobile apps.
Yeah, mobile app. It's a mobile app.
That's sort of similar. Making it really clear what the person's going to get out of the game, like whatever fun or excitement or whatever it is, make it all about their experience and focus on what they're going to get out of it.
Good. Any other questions about marketing for the game? Definitely ask. And then the second question is, for a show like I'm doing, what type of advice would you give me? Because with the show, it is kind of marketing in a way, but how would you market a show? I've been really thinking about this, and how do I promote it more other than going live every day? So what advice would you give me on marketing for something like this, a show?
Well, if you just want to reach a wider audience, I would say either connect or interview with somebody who would have a wider audience and that can sort of drop you into their network. That would be a pretty fast way to accomplish that, as opposed to doing something more methodical and organic. And that's sort of entering into like influencer territory of just somebody more of a following and more people who are interested in what you're talking about.
Within whatever space I'm trying to bring more audience. That makes sense. I guess my audience, with what I talk about, I don't know if there's many influencers. I got to really think about that. That's a good question. And then why would they want to be on my show? I got to figure out how to get them on my show.
Yeah, you got to think about that. See, I do believe that like we're not going to be asking high school students what they're going to do later on. I think that one day we're going to be asking them what their brand is going to be. And that is where I think the future of marketing is going.
That's awesome. That's a clip I'm going to take and use somewhere else. I think that's excellent because I deal with high school students in MetaBronx. That's a good question. What do you see your brand being? But then I have to explain what branding is. So what would you say? How would you explain to a young high school person, what does that mean? If I told you, what do you mean by what is my brand going to be? How would you explain that?
What do you want to be known for? How do you want to be known? What kind of connection and how do you want to connect with your audience and your consumers? And definitely think about it long term. Not, think about something past tomorrow. What do you want it to be like a year from now, 10 years from now?
20, 30, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You might want to put a tattoo on your face today for your audience today, but in 50 years, that may not work out.
And as we know from consumers, they're really bad at thinking about future events. So they need to be thinking about these things.
That's good. That's very good advice. That's very good advice, actually. Any last questions from anyone? I have to run to an investor meeting right now. It's 12 o'clock. Very, very nice meeting you, Kirsten. We'll definitely be in touch more. And thank you for coming on the Entrepreneur Hour. Anybody follow Kirsten on LinkedIn. I put her link in the description. And thank you again for watching the Entrepreneur Hour. Thank you.
Thank you, Miguel. I had a blast. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
I don't know how you turn